Hello. Hello, beautiful souls. Oh, it's funny. I'm watching a crow flutter down. It's funny when I get on to do videos, they like to come down. So it's like they think I have food. I don't know if it's an energy thing or what, but crows have always been allies, so I don't mind. Powerful allies, too, you know? I just did a post on my Facebook the other day as I'm helping my oldest learn how to move through bigger cities. He's only been lucky enough that I took the brunt of the adults' piratey behavior so that he didn't have to live in this kind of stuff for a long time. Anyways, I was talking about like with crows, like always make friends with the crows. Always, I've had times that like crows have alerted me to danger ahead, and I've seen them not do that with other people, and they'll bring you little things too. It's funny, especially city crows. They like shiny. They like shiny stuff, and they like to bring you shiny stuff. And you never know when it might be useful or just cool. Get added to your altar, your bundle, that kind of stuff. Anyways, so I decided to make this my third episode of the Wickedly Divine Feminine Tour because I realized yesterday actually I had to do some venting, so I did that love letters to my cabin, which I still think is just so delicious. Like everybody's talking about how I'm like everything is about him, and it's like I do think about my DM a fair amount. That is true. Though my favorite example of how I often think more about my kids and myself and everyone else is in the love letters to my cabin. Like I named it something that they'd be sitting there going, "Look, she made all these videos about Rudy Bug, and look, she's just obsessed." But if you listen to them, I mean, yeah, some of them I talk mostly about him, but most of them I talk mostly about me. It's like the perfect kind of prank that he would just he'd love it. I don't know. He's stuck right now. I'm not worried about it, but the oh man, I like having that space. It's nice to have Facebook and YouTube, which are the perfect places to put my emotions and my feelings, so I'm not emotionally dumping on anybody else without consent, which a lot of people do not realize that they do and how messed up it is. Even I used to do it. Anyways, I realized though that I am back on the tour. That having to flee from my parents' house with my oldest son and his bird, which, if you've been watching the comments and stuff, was quite a fiasco. I'm proud of him. You know, not a lot of people put that much care and concern into animals, and even I had to think about the legalities of it. You know. Anyways, I was thinking about it though because the place where I ended up, I'm not surprised uh, to be around a lot of kids and teens who I mean, not all of them have it really, really messed up, but all of them have some degree of either being blamed for everything that the pirates, the adults, are doing. And from what I've been hearing from other kids, there's plenty of kids out here being abused, and there's not a lot of sanctuary for them. And even I don't have sanctuary for them. I was telling my oldest, I was like, I need a castle. And I think I know which one. You know, the one at the end of the 101 Dalmatians movie, the live action version, like right at the end with all the Dalmatians? And he goes, yeah, it's like that one, but local. And like local ish. Like, I still want to be out away from the city, but he goes, I don't want to run that with you. I was like, I love you so much. I said, I mean, I assumed that I'd give you the one of the king suites and whatnot, so you'd have your own space. But this, so I'm glad you have such beautiful boundaries, my son, because that's a good thing to clarify. I wasn't thinking to sign you up for it. This is my thing. Like, this is what I'm being called to do. And he goes, okay, good. But he did say that he felt like that's something that I would do. He says a lot of his friends have always. It's so funny to even like think it. Like I accept it. It's a very good compliment, but it's like what I don't know. Like a lot of his friends will say like they wish that I was their mom or something along those lines, more of a guardian to them, and it's like, oh. And it's what's funny because the old me would have been like, if you really knew me, you wouldn't feel that way. Though, you know what? I've had enough experiences with enough kids coming into my life that, like, even if I was in a space where I didn't really want to be around kids, like, I get it. Like, I was that kid, you know? And I know so many people that I've held dear to my heart that were that kid, you know? And it made me realize it's like, you know what? There's a reason for everything. I really believe that coincidences, if they exist at all, are very rare. Just the question is, if you go with manifestation, if what you believe is true, then you just got to be careful what you believe is true. And I've been thinking about it a lot. It's like, especially since one of the kids, like, what was it? One of the teens had said, they said, what is it? I like you. I can ask you any question, and you'll just like talk on about it for like 5 minutes, and it's so soothing. And then I can ask you another question, and you'll do it again. I was like, fair. I was like, I'm glad you like that. They were like, yeah, it's nice. And then another one had said, I went to help a younger kid, about the age of my youngest, go look for a friend of their, or well, it was a friend of theirs brother. And it sounded like, it ended up being kind of a situation where it sounded like her brother was trying not to be home. You know what I mean? It didn't sound like it was exactly a great situation at home. And two things came about of that. Like yesterday, the day after, the kiddo that he didn't even ask me to help. It was crazy. Like he was all ready, or they were all ready to be gung ho and take their bike and a weapon and like go looking. And I was like, no, 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 no. You're not going out there alone. Even if this might be somewhat of a wild goose chase, I'm going with you. And and then don't take the weapon because for two reasons. One, you're not likely to need it. Well, three reasons. You're not likely to need it. Two, if you get hurt, if there's a scuffle and you get hurt, I'm going to have to stop and attend to you and not be able to help your friend or their brother or do whatever thing. That's not okay. And then for three, I give a fuck about you and I don't want to see you get hurt. And it is way easier to either accidentally hurt yourself or to get hurt in the process of trying to defend yourself. Like, things happen. And it's funny. The look on their face was kind of like I like that somebody cares about me, though I'm not sure that I trust that. But you know what? I mean, I can't do a whole lot, but I can care, you know? And that kiddo told me yesterday that they were trying to explain to their friend, whose brother had gone missing, like, who I was in relationship to them. Because I'm kind of like a friend of a friend of a friend, and also a new neighbor. So it's like weird. But I love it because kids are closer to spirit, and kids see things so much simpler. And they said, "Well, I told them you're like an auntie, but cool." And I was like, they said, "Is that okay?" And I said, "That's like the highest compliment you could give me, kiddo. Like that's beautiful." I said, especially with a lot of the traditions I've had the privilege of interacting with. And they smiled, and that was nice. Um, Though that got me to thinking about it, there's been a couple of synchronicities that have come up a fair amount, especially since I took my trip, which I'm still laughing. My therapist, I went back and saw him, especially with all the drama stuff going on, and he says that was like the best thing you could have done. Just fuck all the work, fuck all the shit, give my DM some responsibility with our youngest, make sure my oldest had some friends to take him on some adventures, and just go. And he was even like, "Why didn't you stay out longer?" I was like, "I tried. My parents sabotaged it, and so did everybody else." Like, I tried to stay away and have fun, just for me, just to be selfish and do my. I told him I was calling it the Wickedly Divine Feminine Tour, though, and he was like, "What? I want to write that down. That's cool." I was like, "I know, right? Like, that was a genius idea." Anyways, when I left for that, and since I've been back, there's been two syncs. They're relevant to me even before now, though I think I'm starting to see. I don't know, because I just surrendered to spirit. I was like, look, there are many things in my heart that I would like to ask for, like my DM, stuff like that. Like if I'm being selfish, yeah, duh, I want him back. Like duh, especially in terms of like healthier version of him. Yeah, like I'm not just like, oh, I want him back as he is now, being all immature and stuff like that. It's adorable, though. I got better shit to do with my time than to chase him around. Um, that was something that I did when we were younger. Plus, it makes it far more interested in what I'm doing when I'm not pursuing him, as I have not been. Anyways, um, the sinks are Lost Boys and Cinderellas. And it's interesting too because between like Lava Hot Springs was definitely like a runaway town. It reminded me of a friend's garage that I used to hang out at a lot when I was a teen. And like it's pretty much where the runaways all went. You know what I mean? Like at least for a minute. They couldn't stay there for forever because my friend's parents were like, no. But that was there. And I remember like it's funny. I was never quite the runaway. My dynamics with my family were weird. I guess I never really understood. Like it's weird. I mean I set it up so that I had a parent that could talk to my mom and say that I was there safely with them even when I was out and about. She wasn't. She was kind of. Her kids were kind of latchkey too. So I don't know. She was like everybody called her the cool mom, but eventually she was not the cool mom. Though she did that, and I'm grateful for her. Though I knew that I knew that my mom could not be fooled by that, and it almost kind of hurt that it seemed like she was. But I realized later on when she told me, like a few years ago, she started telling me on a regular basis that one of my supposed friends had been calling her and telling her I was doing all sorts of shit, that like some of it was true-ish, but it was like really it's funny. I'm interesting and I'm always up to things, but in terms of like the drama that normal people get into, the pirating, I'm really boring in that way. Like I like I like having my sober judgment. I like my body. I like my soul and my life. I always have. Like, right? I've always appreciated those things about myself. And I'd like to make this lifetime last as long as possible. Hence why I'm also working on releasing smoking. Um, but like, it's funny, like, lava kind of reminded me of that. Like, all the spots that. Oh, that's the other thing. Yes, mom was always mad because I was never home. It's like, gee, maybe look around and look within. Maybe there's a room that I'm not around. Anyways, um, like Lava Hot Springs and a few of the other places that I found, it was interesting. Like, they were very much those like runaway places, like places that you go to run away. Easy jobs, lots of tourism brings in a lot of work, easy access to deviances and such things. And it's funny because then I realized, like, especially on the trip, it was like, oh, am I running away from things? And it's like, yeah, I kind of am. Like, if I'm being selfish, I kind of am running away a little bit. Um, and also, I was in the copycat energy of my DM. I think I still am to a certain degree. All the things I see happening, including having a car that doesn't quite run and it has a starter problem, which reminds me of my Rudy Bugs. It's not the Oldsmobile 88. But it was an Oldsmobile, old boat of a car, and all of my friends used to like. It's funny. His people were like, "Oh, that's ghetto," but my friends and I were like, "That's cool." He'd have like a roach clip inside it that he'd wired up so that he could make the flywheel spin, because the flywheel and the starter in it had like missing teeth, and it was easier to do it from under the hood of the engine. And we were all fascinated, like, whoa, that's a magic we want to know about. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's why you liked hanging out with us. Anyways, the anyways, copycat energy will be another time. That's a whole nother magic that I'm probably gonna have to have a whole nother section of teaching on. You know what? I am closer to one of my favorite witchy stars, though, that I was going to do classes out. I should pursue that. In any case, the the Lost Boys and the Cinderella Sinks. It very much is like, it's like, how do I put it? It's, well, okay. When I was talking to some of the kids out here, that were talking about the ways that their parents are. and how they treat them. It's like the girls are very much Cinderella esque. A couple of even young kids are like, their parents are totally sexist. I'm like, that's a real thing to say. You know what I mean? Like they know, right? This is my thing about like so many people are they treat kids like they don't know. And they do. They fucking know. Most kids are super fucking smart. Even the kids that have developmental delays are super fucking smart. It's us that hold them in a place of, oh, you're not old enough to understand. No, most kids are. And especially if you've made either shitty choices or because of where your life started, you going upward still meant getting out of shitty situations. No, the kids know. You know what I mean? They know. And but it's like a lot of it is to where the girls are you do the chores, you be responsible, you do this, which is interesting because it's training them into toxic masculinity. Remember what I talk about in a lot of my other videos about how adults these days in their pirate energy, it's the men who get into toxic femininity, like playing head games, um, push and pull, in and out, all or nothing, being super emotional, being reactive, stuff like that. I guess reactive is a little more. No, well, no, because it's toxic femininity. Because healthy masculinity is not reactive. Yes, action taking occurs, but it's not reactive. And then the women are in toxic masculinity. They all want to talk about I'll beat your ass and I'll do this and flipping people off and acting aggressive and then passive aggressive and then shutting you out and then it's like meh. And you know it's interesting too because I'd never really thought about the connection. Like I mean I've thought about like how do you get that way, but I didn't think about the simplicity of that. Like well look at that. Like it's really simple, isn't it? Like if you've got let's say boys and girls, at least assigned at birth, boys and girls, because a lot of these kids, like, their families won't even let them pick a name for themselves to go by, and definitely they won't respect any sort of like decision on gender identity. I mean, I've heard some awful shit already. That's really fucking horrendous to say. I'm not even gonna repeat it. It's fucking awful about what they'll say, both to their own kids and to other adults that are like, "Hey, you know, I think one of them suggested that it was a way that kids are trying to control their parents. Like, how fucking sick in the head do you have to be to believe, one, that your kids would want to control you, and two, that either picking their own name to go by or recognizing the gender identity that they feel like they are is them controlling you? Like, that's really fucking weird. That's a really fucking weird reason. And it shows a lot of healing needs, you know, in the adults. And especially because as kids we're supposed to experiment and explore. Like I don't know when that got lost in terms of being a healthy part of growing up, but it did. Anyways, and that's not to say that it's always all a phase or anything like that. I respect, you know, I respect that kids and adults. Like even if it is a phase, that's still a part of building your identity. It's still a part of self-actualization. It's still good, right? And but then like I mean the thing about it is like so the Cinderella thing happens to the girls. And then the Lost Boys thing happens to the boys. Like a lot of them get made the golden child. We still have a lot of that like and it's funny because everybody talks about the patriarchy, but guess who is much more likely to make a daughter into a Cinderella and a son into a golden child who becomes a lost boy in the world? Mothers. And no, I'm not shitting only on women. I'm saying we need a balance of both. We cannot put all the blame on one side or the other in any issue. Like, yes, there are some where it leans more one way than the other, but if nothing else, we always reflect. Like, and as the mothers and the sisters, like, we play a part in it too. If nothing else, by being codependent and not and being cowardly as fuck and not speaking up when we see other women and men, especially other women, because like the world has gone so fucking crazy on masculinity. I've heard several young boys here tell me that they would rather go by they them than pick any sort of gender identity because what it means to be a man anymore, either from men that have been messed up or from women that have been messed up that they've watched mess up men, like they don't want to identify with that anymore. I mean, which is both incredible and fucking sad. That is real. That's a real fucking conversation right there. And I don't know many adults that would even stop for a minute to go, yeah, I have played a part in that. Maybe not intentionally, maybe not consciously, though I have, either in my own actions or my lack of actions or things like that. But kids, they're honest most of the time. And I'm torn about like kind of not taking on the Me Too movement, but I know that the movement I want to start would definitely rile up more Me Too movement stuff because I was just talking with several women in it that are very much in toxic masculinity energy and all about we gotta win and it's all the men and it's like, you know what, my movement would be you too, and it would be for every movement, not just the Me Too movement, but specifically when it comes to gender stuff, because it's like everybody does this all or nothing thing. Either you're for women or you're against women. Either you're for men or you're against men. And if you're for men, you must be some crazy conservative Christian person. It's like, no, I'm I'm like so liberal. It's hilarious. And I'm very pagan witchy. And I'm not even against Christianity or Abrahamic religions. I believe that all paths, regardless of how new or old, do exist and they are valid and deserving of respect. Same thing with all orientations and all genders and everything like that. And it's like most people, they once they get past the first stereotypes of their own reactiveness and learn that, then they want to go, well, you're the only one like that. And it's like, no, no, I'm not. I'm just the only one you know of that's like that because you keep yourself sheltered in a bubble. It's called confirmation bias. Anyways, but I keep thinking about it. It's like, okay, so we got Lost Boys and Cinderellas. And it's like, what can I do? You know, I by the grace of spirit, managed to get an apartment for me, my oldest son, and our bird for at least until the summer, with a friend and some, and it's like I don't have anywhere to put all these kids. But I'm not but I'm thinking also about the lessons I learned from being codependent in the past. Like even though they're kids who deserve to be rescued, even if I could, that's not necessarily going to help them. And the system fucking sucks. Like, and even looking around here, like, there's several places that should be sanctuary, and most of them aren't. Like, I was asking the kids about it. What about that place over there? And, that's for kids, or this or that. And they're like, no, that's got a creepy person. No, that's got a creepy person. Or that one's only for Christians. Or that one's only open during these times. Or when we try to go to this place, it's weird. Like damn, they're really like, where do you go? And especially when you're talking about cities, like whether you're on the in the central areas or in the outskirts or things like that, there's not a lot of places to hide anymore. We've taken out most of like the natural areas and things like that, so they're really like, what do? A lot of them, I think, tend to go to like the latchkey kids sort of houses, like they hang out there, which makes sense. Safest place you could be, right? A place where there just aren't any parents home. Anyways, but I was thinking about it, and it's like I don't want to get into rescuing them. In fact, a lot of them are already trying to rescue each other. A lot of them are dating far too young, and to just not in my opinion, but like psychologically, like it shows attachment traumas. Like they're trying to fill the gap of where their parents either did far too little or far too much because so many people have been stuck in splitting black and white thinking, and the rest of them, whether they're into that or not, are they've been getting into the hero villain victim sort of thing. My battery's low, so I'm gonna end this pretty soon here. But they, it's like, what could I do that does not either take me away from my own kids too much, and doesn't leave these other kids like helpless? Um, and what could help them shift things in their own ways? Like I don't want to control how they shift it. I just like it to be benevolent and upward, because that way they can go out and create the change that I might not be able to. And that's the lesson that spirits really brought in a whole bunch, especially over the past 22 months. I realize it's actually been happening throughout my life, though I didn't see it until about 22 months ago when separation started. And it's ripple effects, right? Because so many of us look at, like, how can I take this person in, whether it's a kid or adult? How can I take them in and save them, right? Which, I mean, if everybody had the resources and the ability to go through and do the legality, sure. But that's not always it. And really, like, I don't know. I don't think separating parents from kids is necessarily the answer either. I think the parents need fucking help. And I think that, like, the kids really need recognition. They need to know that there are people in the world that give a fuck and are not creepy. Like, it's not about I can use you, or I can, like, I know so many people will be like, yeah, I'll help you because then I can get foster care money for you, or I can get more DSHS or welfare and shit like that. And it's like, that's not cool. Like, if you're not really just giving a fuck to give a fuck, and you wouldn't do it without that shit, then don't. Like, you're not gonna make anything better. Anyways, I really do. I want to manifest land in a castle. It's funny. It's kind of a play on something my DM Rudy had asked. Like, he wondered. They tried to bribe me for a minute, like, to get the 100 acre woods, the land, not really 100 acres, but like land, and see if I wanted to put like friends and RVs on it that needed help. And I was like, the thing is, adults, no. Like, I would not want to basically sit in a moo and babysit broke jerks who don't have any motivation. Like, I have empathy for everyone, though I also have empathy for myself, and I know where my patience level is with people. And it's like, no, like, I if I was to do that, I would get people that would want to do far more than just stay in an RV on my land. Like, no, I'm not going to be some weird sort of, I don't know, like, slumlord RV park person. Not going to happen. There are other people for that job. Anyways, the but land, like, to where I don't even know what it would take. Like, I mean, it wouldn't be. I wouldn't want an orphanage or anything like that. Just, I guess, just a safe haven. Like, I know there's some places out here that used to do it, but I think they're just for older kids and stuff, like teens and stuff. And I'd want it to be a place where parents could come and get help for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, not a run away and stay away unless it's really that bad, and then in which case, like, the resources to be able to find good people and good parents to help out with that shit. But in the meantime, I just keep thinking about the ripple effects, and, like, I think about myself as a kid, and I think about my friends as kids, and it's like, what were the things that we wanted, and part of it was, like, part of my issue too with the Me Too movement is like, oh, believe women, sure, but there's nothing in there that says believe kids. And a lot of the women in that don't believe kids, and then they shit talk men in front of their boys and their sons, and including those who are non-binary, like, and in front of their daughters too. And, like, then guess what that does? That creates all sorts of fucking new identity traumas and shit, and repeats old ones. But nobody believes kids. And yeah, sure, there's some fucking kids that exaggerate some shit, but guess where they get that from? Yeah, from us adults, from TV, from movies, from shit like that. And usually they only get to that space when they were not believed, in moments when they were not exaggerating and, like, trying to just tell the truth and be calm about it, and it got taken like it wasn't a big deal. That's how we develop people who are dramatic, as other people, as pirates like to say, when somebody's actually being self righteous in a healthy way and saying, stop treating me like shit. Anyways, so acknowledgement is one. I've had several kids even just tell me, like, thank you for believing me. And there's a couple times it didn't even turn out to be as bad as what they thought, as whatever they thought. Like, if a friend was in trouble and stuff, and they were worried that I'd be mad at them. I was like, no, no, your heart's in the right place. I know you didn't lie to me. You believed that that was true. And, I said, thank you for believing me. And sometimes I say the same thing. Thanks for believing me. Like, you know? And then the other part, too, is just, like, the one thing I can do is care. Like, that doesn't mean, like, I don't have a place for them. And, I mean, money's coming in. The resources are coming in. So, I mean, maybe something will come up. Maybe I get to manifest that castle for kids. um, and their pets, because obviously with what my oldest went through, yeah, I think there should be space for that too. Though until then, it's like, what can I do? You know, I can affirm them. I can say I care. I can give them my number and be like, hey, you want to text? You want to call? You having a frustrating moment? I'm happy to talk. Though I'm not gonna. I've told all of them too, just like I tell the adults, like I'm not gonna coddle you. Like you know what? I can be nurturing. Yes, I'm not gonna coddle you. You're already in a tough world. That's not gonna help. You know, I will be real with you, and I will tell you when I feel like you're gonna walk yourself into trouble, even if it wasn't your fault in the first place. Like, and not to not rock the boat, but so that you can learn inner peace no matter what is going on around you, so that you can love yourself even when the adults around you who should be doing that are not doing that. Most of them respond pretty well to that. And so, this episode, number 3, aptly fitting of the Empress, is about that. My prayers go to those lost boys, Cinderellas, and all the other fairy tales that everyone of any gender identifies with. I'd love to hear in the comments what sort of things that you're up to in your twin flamey, star seedy, witchy work in the world, if you're doing any. And if not, thank you for watching. I love everything about y'all.